Hey guys, Infidel1258 here. So I'm going to show you a battle from the Gold League tournament at Splinterfest. And this is, in my opinion, the most exciting battle that they had in that tournament. And I think it illustrates what makes a battle really awesome to watch. And then hopefully from that, we can maybe start a conversation around how we would recreate a better esports tournament experience for Splinterlands in the future. Because I think this is a key example of how we could really crush it by growing the quality of games revealed through curating the list of games shown. So let's watch the game, let's see what it shows us, and then let's talk more about that.
Now, Ilthane, our first sighting of Ilthane. So Juno.
So we've got, before I let it play, we've got Juno Kyo versus Brybro, and Brybro is on the top and Juno Kyo is on the bottom. And we've got Yoden versus Ilthane. Ilthane's got the archery reflect. Yoden's got the archery and the blast, of course. So interesting, like almost perfect. Great game. This is such a great game from every level. Here's step number one for what we need to do to improve our tournament experience in the future. We need to pause the gameplay before we launch. When this gets thrown to Aftersound and to Luthien, we need time to breathe. We need this to be on the screen, just like you've got it here in front of me. And we need time to talk about what we see. We see Yoden, we see Ilthane. Ilthane's archery reflect. Okay, let's feature that. Let's talk about that. Okay, how important is that going to be? Well, there's only one, even though he picked Yoden, there's only one archery monster amongst them. And so he's actually not really leaning into the archery benefit, and therefore Ilthane's archery reflect is largely irrelevant. It's going to play a factor, but how big a factor, we'll see. And then is there any other things that are really pivotal? I'm seeing, of course, the taunt is going to be helpful by restricting these snipers, because we got to snipe. That's one of the features. The taunt is going to call in the snipe, but it looks like he's going to get melted because we got tons of magic. Is this going to die rapidly? And maybe would the better play have been Grandmaster Wraith? All this could be discussed before ever pressing rumble. Like let's really unpack it. Let's talk about what we see. Let it breathe so that Aftersound can speak about what he's seeing and Luthien can do the same. They're not. If the concern is we don't want to see what's going to happen before we press rumble, no, we really need to. And remember, when I'm going to say 3-4 months ago, when Luke Plaisdern was covering a ton of tournaments, he would have 3 or 4 commentators come on his channel and we would talk about the battle before we press rumble. And it was very common that we wouldn't necessarily agree. And I think they might have been afraid it was just going to be obvious who's going to win, and there would be too much agreement, and that wouldn't be exciting. But I actually think it would have been really cool to hear what Aftersound saw and what Luthien saw, and later when Bulldog was around, seeing what he would have said. So that's the first point. We need to let it breathe at the moment before we press battle, and then talk about and frame, especially because remember, you're going to have an audience of people who don't necessarily know Splinterlands as well as Aftersound and Luthien. And so even to then say, look, we have a taunt in the first position on both teams, and we have a secondary tank for the white team that has reflection shield, so all this blast damage is going to be largely negated. We have a resurrect over here, so the taunt is going to be brought back to life. We have a last stand, all these different. We have a fury, so the taunt is going to be slapped. So tons of things that could have been talked about, but there's no time allowed for it. So let's continue, and you're going to hear Luthien and Aftersound do a great job, but again, they just didn't have enough time because of the format. So let's hear what they have to say.
Here with Yoden up top and Brybro with Ilthane on the bottom. With that
return fire is going to hurt.
Now, Juno Kyo does have a good chunk of magic monsters.
He does have that magic, you're right. There's less range monsters than I thought.
There are less range monsters, but man, that Fury ability coming into play here with Techno-Wizologist, I believe is one of the newer Riftwatcher cards.
Yeah.
But look at one of my favorite cards, Buson on the bottom, taking all of that reflection shield, so no damage for him.
And I almost would like it if we just took a pause every now and then. We could pause and say, look, we lost that supply runner in the back line because the reflection shield that Junukio planned. Like, this was a plan. This was an intentional play, and talking about how it worked to some extent, but how you heard Aftersound saying there's actually not that much magic or archery. There's actually quite a bit of magic. This was a counter play. This was a counter, and this was like a counter. So yeah, again, just more time, slow it down. Maybe go at a slower rate of speed play, because every game that you show should be so good that I want to see every move. I want to know if one shot that could have hit missed. I want to know if one stun that could have stunned but didn't. I want to know all those little moments that could have gone this way or that, and that's going to really bring it alive. And our new viewers are going to need someone to hold their hand through that, because they're not necessarily going to recognize that we have a last stand over here and what that would mean. They're not necessarily going to know that there's a tank heal. They're not necessarily going to know that magic cuts to the heart of the player before it hits the armor. Yeah, we know that, but are we trying to only appeal to 200,000 Splinterlands players? Or are we trying to appeal to millions of people who might be interested in esports? That's the point, guys. So let's keep going.
And that has really changed the meta.
And
we're going to see the
Resurrects.
Wow. This has been okay. I would say this is
a great game.
Quite dominant from Brybro on this level. And I know the Resurrect played a crucial part there. Now this is a snipe rule set, so they are attacking the back line. But it seems as though, well, that blast damage could still make this quite close. But one of the legendary cards for Rift Watchers, Runemancer Atuat, is sitting there at the end, and he has Last Stand, and he's we haven't seen him.
Oh, so, Brybro is actually on top.
Oh, Brybro is the one on top. I apologize for that. So it looks like Brybro, Brybro with Yoden may still get close, but I think that
stun was huge. That stun was huge, because right now this Atuat should strike next. The Jin over here fired and stunned the Atuat, and the Atuat now will not this turn fire and kill. It would have fired and killed this Jin, and that sort of thing. It's all happening so fast. I like, they're doing a great job commentating. I couldn't have done better unless I was allowed to pause, and they should be allowed to pause. Let's keep going.
I think that reflection shield did so much.
Ooh, that miss.
Oh, wow. And Runemancer Atuat goes down. Well,
huge. That kill is so huge.
Get really close here.
This is really close.
Watch this.
Well, you're going to have...
if he can land a stun.
He needs that stun.
He got the stun. I love it. I loved hearing Aftersound's tone there. Oh, can I go back? See, it's like too long of a video for me to go back just a beat. But we're at 2 hours, 30 seconds, and 2 hours, 30 minutes, and 18 seconds. And if you could go back just 2 seconds and listen to the intonation from Aftersound saying he recognized what was possible. He's like, oh, he's gonna fire first, and he's got the stun, and then it did stun, and by the way, he's got Giant Killer, and it slapped for 8, or Death Blow. Is that I forget what that. Yeah, Giant Killer, and so he hits for 8 instead of 4, and then he also stunned, and that was absolutely necessary for his win or loss, and so.
And he got the stun. My goodness. Wow. Well done to Brybro. That one came down to the last health. Did you see that?
That was insane.
My goodness. That
was insane. And it was so fun live to see that one, guys. I was sitting next to Jim Morgan. I was sitting next to, I forget his in-game name, but Josh was in front of me, and then oh man, my buddy Mike from Canada. Shout out to my buddy Mike. Man, it was wild. And Ashley was there, Yuki was there, a bunch of people hanging right around, and we're watching that live. And that stun, I was thinking to myself, he could stun, and he did stun, and then we all start, you can hear in the background, we're cheering. That was a special moment. And that sort of, that playlist of games that we see here could be curated so that those moments are the ones that make it to the big screen. And you have to go no farther than think about PGA golf. Maybe you love golf, maybe you hate it. But when they play a major, what happens is at every hole, there's golfers. There's a foursome of golfers and they're playing, or I guess two, I don't know how many people are on every hole, 2, 4, I don't know. But at every hole, someone's shooting. And when they're playing, the cameraman will be at every single hole monitoring whether it's a great shot or not, whether it's a terrible shot, because that's sometimes fun to watch too. Whether something really unusual, it lands in an odd spot or something like that. Something that makes a story. There's something about a person. There's a storyline about who's shooting or who's coming from behind or who's surprising with victory. And then it makes it to the big screen where you see it at home. And that moment right there was so fun to watch and came so close. And it was such a great interplay back and forth between the different, even from the summoner choices to the monster selections. They both played that so well that it really needed more time to breathe, like we said earlier. And it also needed, we need more of that. And the only way I can imagine this, to think it through, of course it's complicated because you'd have to have the battles are happening like 10 minutes before they make it to the screen. And so how do you vet them? How do you curate the list of games? Maybe you have Splinterlands staff standing behind watching the game unfold. Maybe they're in soundproof boxes in the back room and all you've got is, Bribo's in one soundproof box and the other player, I forget his name right now, is in a different soundproof box. And there's a Splinterlands player behind and no one else. And they can watch the game. And either one of them, viewer one, again, they'd have to be Splinterlands employees watching Bribro's screen and one watching Junkio's screen, I think it was. And either one of them could say, radio in to whoever's controlling the screen and say, maybe it's Rondon, and say, hey, Ron, this one was amazing. It's got to be on the front. Here's, cue it up. And simultaneously in 2 or 3 boxes down, there'd be another match and someone else would be saying, no, this is a great one. Get it ready. And there'd be 4 or 5 battles that were happening. Oh, this was a landslide. No one's going to care to see it. It wasn't pivotal. No one won. It wasn't a deciding match, and it was a super, it was a snowball and it was one-sided. So you can decide very easily that certain matches are not worth viewing on the public like big screen and others need to be seen. That would make this 10 times better. That would be a gigantic upgrade and easy to execute. So I hope you guys are listening at Splinterlands. You're always so great at taking feedback. And this event was amazing. So don't get it mistaken. I loved it and it was a ton of fun. And the casters did an amazing job. It's just that these are little things that could be brought to bear to improve the amazing quality of what we already had. So that's the way it's intended. Constructive criticism and feedback for how we can improve an already amazing experience. Guys, what do you think about those comments? Let me know. Let Splinterlands know in my comments and maybe even in Mab Chat or wherever. So we get this, we fine tune this amazing experience. So the next Splinterfest is even better. Guys, thanks so much for your time and attention. I hope you have an amazing day. God bless.